What kind of person smashes a vending machine in a crowded supermarket just because it ate their dollar? Karen stood there, her face flushed red, fists clenched, screaming at the top of her lungs as shards of glass glittered on the linoleum floor. The machine, once proudly dispensing chips and candy, now lay in ruins, its metal frame dented, snacks spilling like confetti. Shoppers froze, their carts squeaking to a halt, as Karen's voice echoed through the aisles. "This is outrageous. I want my money back, and I want it now," she bellowed, her chins quivering with indignation. The supermarket, a small community hub in suburban Ohio, had never seen such a spectacle. Karen, in her oversized floral blouse and tight leggings, was a storm of entitlement, her presence commanding attention in the worst way possible. The manager, a wiry man named Tom, emerged from the back office, his face a mix of exhaustion and resolve. He'd dealt with difficult customers before, but Karen was a category of her own. She'd been a regular nuisance, complaining about everything from expired yogurt to the rude, teenage cashier who didn't smile enough. Today, though, she'd crossed a line. Tom adjusted his tie, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the wreckage. "Ma'am, you need to calm down," he said, his voice steady but firm. "You've destroyed store property." Karen scoffed, her lips curling into a sneer. "Calm down. This machine stole my money. You should be thanking me for exposing your scam." The crowd murmured, some nodding in reluctant agreement, others shaking their heads in disbelief. Tom's assistant, Mia, a young woman with a nervous habit of twisting her ponytail, stood behind him, clutching a clipboard. She'd seen Karen's tantrums before, but this was different, destructive, reckless. Mia whispered to Tom, "Should we call the police?" Karen overheard and spun toward her, pointing a manicured finger. "You dare threaten me? Do you know who I am? I'll have your job for this." Mia flinched but held her ground, her eyes darting to Tom for support. The air grew thick with tension, shoppers whispering, phones discreetly recording. Karen's rage was a wildfire, and the supermarket was her kindling. But there was something Karen didn't know. Tom wasn't just a manager. He was a man with a past. Years ago, he'd been a corrections officer, dealing with far worse than entitled customers. He knew how to handle chaos, how to stay calm when tempers flared. He stepped closer to Karen, his voice low but commanding. "Ma'am, you're going to pay for the damage, or we'll handle this legally." Karen laughed, a sharp, mocking sound. "Legally? You think you can scare me? I'll sue this whole store into the ground." Her confidence was unshakable, but Tom's eyes gleamed with quiet determination. He wasn't backing down. Unknown to Karen, a twist was brewing. Among the onlookers was a woman named Sarah, a quiet single mother who worked as a paralegal. She'd been shopping with her son, Ethan, when Karen's outburst began. Sarah recognized Karen immediately, not from the supermarket, but from a legal case she'd worked on months ago. Karen had a history, one she'd buried under threats and bluster. Sarah's heart raced as she pulled out her phone, not to record, but to text her boss. "Found her," she typed, her fingers trembling. Karen's past wasn't just a skeleton in her closet. It was a ticking bomb, and Sarah held the detonator. The confrontation escalated as Karen jabbed a finger at Tom, demanding to speak to the store's owner. "You're nothing but a glorified clerk." She spat. Tom didn't flinch. He'd seen her type before, people who thought volume and threats could bend the world to their will. "The owner's not here," he said coolly, "but I'm in charge. And you're not leaving until we settle this." Karen's eyes widened, her face a mask of outrage. She stepped forward, towering over Tom despite his steady stance. "You'll regret this," she hissed. The crowd held its breath, sensing the storm about to break. Mia, still clutching her clipboard, glanced at Sarah, who was now whispering to Ethan, her face pale but resolute. Something big was coming, and Karen had no idea. Karen's voice grew louder, a piercing siren in the supermarket's fluorescent glow. "You think you can humiliate me? I'll have this place shut down." She shrieked, her hands flailing, knocking a bag of chips to the floor. Tom stood his ground, his arms crossed, his face unreadable. The crowd, now a semicircle of curious onlookers, buzzed with whispers. Some pitied Karen's unraveling. Others relished the drama, but all felt the weight of the moment. Mia, the assistant, hovered nearby, her clipboard a flimsy shield against Karen's wrath. "Ma'am, please," Mia tried, her voice shaking. "Let's just talk this out." Karen whirled on her, eyes blazing. "Talk. I'm done talking to peons like you." Sarah, standing quietly with Ethan, watched the scene unfold. Her phone buzzed with a reply from her boss. "Get proof. We need her on record." Sarah's stomach churned. She knew Karen's history, a trail of lawsuits, intimidation, and unpaid debts. Months ago, Karen had bullied a small business owner into bankruptcy over a petty dispute, using her wealth and connections to dodge accountability. Sarah had worked on the case, digging through Karen's financial records, uncovering a pattern of fraud. Now, here she was, wreaking havoc again. Sarah whispered to Ethan, "Stay close, sweetie," and edged closer to the chaos, her phone discreetly recording. Tom, unfazed by Karen's threats, pulled out a notepad and began jotting down details. Destruction of property. Estimated damage, $1. 200. He said aloud, his voice cutting through Karen's tirade. "You'll be billed for this, ma'am." Karen laughed, a harsh, guttural sound. "Billed? You think I'm paying for your faulty machine? This is your fault." She turned to the crowd, seeking allies. "You all saw it. This store's a scam." A few shoppers nodded hesitantly, but most looked away, uncomfortable. Tom's eyes flicked to Sarah, catching her subtle nod. He didn't know her, but he sensed an ally in the crowd. Then came the twist. Sarah stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Karen, do you remember the bakery on Elm Street?" The question hung in the air like a thunderclap. Karen froze, her face paling for a split second before her sneer returned. "What are you talking about?" "I don't know any bakery." But her voice wavered, betraying her. Sarah pressed on, her tone steady. "The one you sued into oblivion over a $10 cake. I worked on that case. Your name's not exactly forgettable." The crowd gasped, phones now openly recording. Karen's bravado cracked, her eyes darting for an exit. Sarah's words were a spotlight, exposing the truth Karen had buried. Tom seized the moment. "Sounds like you have a history of this." "Ma'am," he said, his voice dripping with quiet authority. "Pay for the machine, or we escalate this to the police." Karen's face twisted, her confidence crumbling. "You can't prove anything," she snapped, but her voice was weaker now, less certain. Mia, emboldened, stepped forward with a printout from the store's security system. "We have cameras," she said, her voice steady for the first time. "Everything's recorded." Karen's eyes widened, her hands trembling. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a chorus of judgment. Sarah's revelation had shifted the tide, and Karen was drowning in it. The standoff intensified as Karen backed toward the exit, her bravado fading. "This isn't over," she hissed, but her steps were shaky, her voice hollow. Tom followed, his presence unrelenting. "You're not leaving until this is settled," he said, gesturing to Mia to call the police. Sarah, still recording, whispered to Ethan, "Justice is coming." The supermarket, once a mundane backdrop, was now a stage for reckoning. Karen's reign of terror was unraveling, and the truth was closing in. Karen's escape attempt faltered as she stumbled over a fallen bag of chips, her face a mask of panic. The supermarket's exit loomed ahead, but Tom's voice stopped her cold. "Ma'am, you're not walking away from this." His tone was iron, forged from years of handling worse than Karen's tantrums. The crowd, now a tight knot of onlookers, blocked her path, their phones capturing every moment. Mia, clutching the security footage printout, handed it to Tom, who scanned it with a nod. "Clear as day," he said, holding up the paper showing Karen's fist smashing the vending machine's glass. Karen's eyes darted, searching for an out, but there was none. Sarah stepped closer, her voice cutting through the tension. "Karen, you can't bully your way out this time. The bakery wasn't your only victim. There's a paper trail: lawsuits, unpaid fines, fraud." Karen's face contorted, her sneer replaced by raw fear. "You're lying." She spat, but her voice cracked, betraying her. Sarah's revelation had stripped away her armor, exposing the truth. Karen wasn't just a loudmouth. She was a repeat offender, skating on borrowed time. The crowd's whispers turned to gasps, their sympathy for Karen evaporating. A teenage shopper muttered, "She's done this before." And others nodded, their judgment sealing Karen's fate. The police arrived, 2 officers stepping through the sliding doors, their radios crackling. Tom greeted them, handing over the footage and damage estimate. "She destroyed our vending machine," he said, pointing to Karen, who was now cornered near a display of canned goods. The officers approached, their faces neutral but firm. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us," one said, his hand resting on his belt. Karen's bravado collapsed entirely. "This is a setup," she screamed, tears streaming down her face, mascara smudging. "You're all against me." But her words fell flat, drowned by the crowd's murmurs and the weight of her actions. As the officers escorted Karen out, she turned to Tom, her voice a desperate plea. "I'll pay. Okay. Just let me go." Tom shook his head. "You had your chance. The store's pressing charges." The crowd parted, watching as Karen, once a towering figure of entitlement, was led away in handcuffs. Her floral blouse crumpled. Her head bowed. Mia, still shaken, managed a small smile, her confidence growing. Sarah tucked her phone away. Her mission complete. She knelt beside Ethan, whispering, "Sometimes, doing the right thing feels really good." The supermarket slowly returned to normal. Shoppers resuming their routines. Carts squeaking down aisles. But the air felt lighter, cleansed by justice. Tom stood by the broken vending machine, surveying the damage with a quiet satisfaction. He'd faced worse in his past, but this victory felt personal. Karen's downfall wasn't just about a machine. It was about accountability, about standing up to those who think they're untouchable. Mia approached, her clipboard tucked under her arm. "You were amazing, Tom," she said. He shrugged, a faint smile breaking through. "Just doing my job." Sarah, gathering her groceries, glanced at the wreckage one last time. She'd come to the store for milk and cereal, but she'd left with something greater, a reminder that truth can topple even the loudest tyrants. As she walked out with Ethan, the sun setting over the parking lot, she felt a spark of hope. The world wasn't perfect, but moments like this proved it could be just. The vending machine would be replaced, the glass swept away, but the lesson lingered. No one, not even a Karen, could outrun accountability forever.